Ladies and gents, so we still celebrating great technology in transport, 23rd of July 2026. And our first presenter this morning is going to be Mr. Nyuku Nkuna. He's the Acting Group Executive ITS of the Gauteng Transport Authority. He's going to talk to us about the journey towards mobility as a service in an emerging market, South Africa. Thank you very much, Nyuku.
Good morning, colleagues. Could you please confirm if you can see my screen?
We can see you, not your slides yet. Thank you.
All right. Let me just share. Are you able to see my slides now?
Great, we're seeing that. Thank you.
All right. So, colleagues, my name is Nyuku Nkuna, and I'm currently the Acting General Manager for Intelligent Transport Systems at the Gauteng Transport Authority. So what I'll be taking you through today is the journey that we are taking towards mobility as a service in this emerging market. My understanding was that the audience here would be both local and international. So it was very important for me to highlight the fact that we'll be focusing on a South African context. My presentation is very short. I'm going to cover the high-level Gauteng mobility context, the problem statement, that is the problem that we're trying to solve, the options that we looked at, as well as the preferred solution at a very high level and the strategic value of such a solution and the progress that we've made to date. Now, colleagues, as you probably know already, that Gauteng is the most densely populated province in the country. We have over 15 million people, and that constitutes about 24% of the total population in the country. We have 785 people per square meters in the province, and the one that is trailing behind us is KZN with 117. So as you can see, there's a very huge difference there. So that is the context that we are operating in. And out of those 15 million people, the over 40% of the households, they rely on public transport as means of mobility in the province. And the modes that are utilized includes the minibus taxi, metered taxis, which includes e-hailing, buses, trains, and also non-motorized. So 75% of the trips, the total trips that take place in the province, are based on minibus taxis. And for metered taxis and e-hailing, we're looking at 12%. And train services is about 3%. That is due to the fact that the issues that PRASA is currently experiencing and the fact that the Gautrain has limited coverage in the province. And then 10% is buses. So colleagues, that's just a very high level, the context that we are operating in the province. Now, what are the problems that we are facing in terms of mobility? So the first thing is that we have a fragmented mobility system in the province. Everyone is doing their own thing. All the operators have their own operating times, operating rules, fare structures, and so on. There is a declining performance in terms of deterioration of infrastructure, rail infrastructure specifically, as well as road infrastructure, actually, where the buses and the taxis have to travel and so on. And the fact that there is limited bus coverage, some of you may know that there are some areas such as Hammanskraal where there's no bus services at the moment. It is a crisis that the province is trying to deal with. And some other areas are experiencing similar problems, but at a much smaller scale. We have issues around congestion. Those who have to travel on the freeway, you would know, even within suburbs actually, or within townships, There's a lot of traffic internally as well as on the freeways. And that's because there's a very high car dependency in the province and the country in general. People prefer to use their vehicles instead of using public transport. As a result, that affects productivity and people having to sit in traffic for extended periods of time. There's issues around reliability and also high emissions that are being produced in the province. The spatial inequality, the fact that there's a lot of people that live far from where they work and they have to travel long distances to go to work and home at the end of the day. And that also then creates an issue around transport costs. Because there's a lot of households that spend between 10 to 30% of their income on travel. So there is pressure in terms of affordability for low-income users or households. And also there is institutional fragmentation where the planning and responsibilities are sitting in various spheres. You've got three spheres of government, national, provincial, and local. You have all the different institutions having separate mandates. And there's a lot of duplication in terms of the mandates, and sometimes there's even clashes and so on. As a result, you then have inconsistent planning across the mobility system in the province. So in a nutshell, colleagues, you basically have the problem statement is that you have a fragmented and poorly integrated transport system that contributes to high congestion, economic inefficiencies in terms of people being less productive and the movement of goods and services not being smooth and efficient as it should. And you also have environmental degradation in terms of the emissions as well as the utilization of land and infrastructure that we have. The desired state in the province is to have an integrated, efficient, and accessible, reliable, sustainable, and affordable mobility. That is really the goal that we are trying to drive ourselves towards. So I just thought I'd highlight that, colleagues, so that we understand what this mobility as a service is about. Why do we have to do mobility as a service? This is the main reason that we have this challenge, and this is the desired state that we have. Now, we then had to look at various options as a province to say, how do we deal with this issue? How do we deal with the issues that we're facing, and how do we get to the desired state? So we looked at various options. I'm just going to go through these options on a very high level. The first one being do nothing. Basically, just allow things to carry on as they are. So allow everyone to do fragmented planning, allow everyone to operate in silos and be reactive to situations. Obviously, that would have challenges, and the issue that you're going to have is that there's going to be a gradual increase in travel time. There's going to be increased congestion and all the other issues that we are facing. So all the issues that are facing at the moment in terms of mobility will actually gradually increase. And you're actually going to end up with more and more people, more and more vehicles on the road, and worsening emissions as well. So that's the first option. The second option is where you then focus on rail. You make sure that you forget about everything else, or you do them at a limited scale, but the main focus will be on rail, where you fully restore the PRASA lines, elevate the service offering, and make sure that it caters for all LSMs within the province, as well as expanding of the Gautrain. As I mentioned earlier, that the Gautrain has limited coverage at the moment. So if you then expand the coverage of the Gautrain and restore all the PRASA lines and elevate the service offering to be more attractive to commuters, you can then you will be able to move many people over long distances, where you will be reducing road traffic and congestion, as well as road fatalities as well. The only challenge or things to watch for there is the fact that this is a very costly exercise. Rail is very costly. It is costly it's very capital intensive and as well as OPEX intensive as well. And it actually takes time to get there. The second part is the third option would be to then focus on road transport and make sure that you enhance the services there on road transport, ensure that you have things such as priority lanes for buses or high capacity vehicles. If you can formalize the minibus taxi industry and make sure that it's professional, more safer, and so on. And that will assist in improving travel times. It will reduce costs and you will end up with enhanced services. However, you'll have issues around, stakeholder alignment, making sure that all the stakeholders are aligned. So that's something that needs to be watched for and managed carefully. And also, you need to ensure that you have proper legal frameworks to implement, things such as subsidies, as well as, priority lanes and so on, because you could have resistance from the public, and you might not. You have to make sure that you have the right legal framework and regulations that allows you to implement these things. The fourth option would be to focus on expanding the road network and optimizing the road network. That is now building more roads, optimizing the ones that we have and building more. That will offer some short-term congestion relief and improved freight movement as well on some key corridors. However, the more efficient or the more roads you have, you'll have more and more people putting cars and putting traffic on the road. And then eventually, so you will have those short-term benefits, but eventually you'll start having, you'll go back to the same problem. So those who are old enough will know that, for instance, on the N1, we used to have, I think it was 3 lanes in total. And before the 2010 World Cup, there was a project to increase the lanes. And the problems that we had back then before the 2010 World Cup, we are back to those problems again, even though the lanes have been increased. I think they will increase by 2 more lanes and so on. So you will still go back to the same problem, even if you expand, because more and more people will be using their private vehicles. The fifth option, which is option 4, is ensuring that you leverage the digital technologies to make the public transport system or the mobility system in the province more efficient. That is by implementing things such as ITS systems on the public transport, all public transport operations, as well as the infrastructure or the enabling environment for public transport. With that, you then have integrated management, proper incident response, passenger information, enhanced system efficiency. However, that is also a complex exercise. It introduces other issues such as cybersecurity issues, data governance, and so on. Option 5 would be to encourage active mobility, where you ensure that you have enough walking lanes, cycling lanes that are safe and secure, that encourage people to use non-motorized transport for their daily commute. This has a lot of advantages in terms of safer streets, reduced congestion, reduced road fatalities, and so on, and improved accessibility for vulnerable users. However, this can only give you limited, this will only have a limited impact if it's the only focus, because it only covers first and last mile, whereas you still need to have other modes of public transport for long haul. As I mentioned earlier, that people work far from where they live. So you'll find that it's not possible for them to walk all the way or cycle all the way to work. At some point, they have to use motorized transport. Option 6 would be to then introduce some pricing reforms where you basically force people to use public transport by reforming campsite pricing, potential congestion charging as well, In a way, you're basically increasing tariffs or the cost of traveling using public vehicles and so on. So this will assist in reducing public vehicle demand. It will improve the air quality and create a more efficient use of space. However, you may face some resistance there, as well as enforcement and compliance risks. So the option that we eventually settled for is an option where you take a balanced approach, where you do all of these things, but you do them in a very structured and well-coordinated manner. Because at the moment, all of these things are happening, but in an unstructured, and as I mentioned earlier, everyone is doing their own things. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. As a result, you're not going to get the full benefits of all these interventions if it's not done in a coordinated manner. So luckily in the province, the province has established the Gauteng Transport Authority, which is meant to then coordinate all the efforts of all the key stakeholders in the province as far as mobility is concerned. We've started with, there's a document called the Integrated Transport Master Plan, which looks at a 25-year horizon that deals with all these items. So it becomes the hymn that everyone must basically sing from. And since today, this conference or this session is about technology, I'm going to focus on the preferred option, but this technology part of it, because that's also what I am responsible for. So in terms of the preferred solution, which is the integrated implementations on all those options, my focus today is really on the mobility as a service. So that is digitalization of the public transport system. That is, the province is on a journey to implement a mobility as a service hub, which will be customer-centric, meaning it puts people first. It will enable seamless journeys across the province. There will be a single ticket system where commuters will use a single ticket, which can either be a mobile application, a physical card, or any preferred mode or any preferred fare media to travel on all modes of public transport. So they can hop onto a taxi, they can hop onto the Gautrain, a PRASA, or any other mode of public transport. If we have cycling, bicycles that you can rent, you can actually use that very same ticket to rent a bicycle, and so on. It will facilitate the connection of all the modes of public transport and ensure a sustainable future. So in order for you to get there, to get mobility as a service, you are actually forced to have in an enabling environment, or you are forced to have these key enablers. The first one being a smart mobility center. So you need to have a physical facility where you will have people, technology, and processes that are executed to ensure that there's real-time monitoring of the entire public transport system across all modes. There's incident detection and response. There's operational coordination across all the public transport operators, including freight as well. There will be proper management of performance of the system as a whole, as well as multi-agency collaboration. So you're forced to have this facility in the center in the province to manage all those items. You also need to have the second item that you need to have in place is the implementation, the appropriate implementation of ITS in the province, meaning ensuring that all the public transport operators or mobility operators implement the right and appropriate ITS technologies on their operations, ensuring that the infrastructure or the enabling infrastructure for mobility also has the necessary technologies implemented. This includes things such as adaptive traffic signal control, CCTV cameras, various sensors that are installed across the infrastructure to ensure that there's actual visibility and digital management of mobility in the province. The third one, you need to have a digital integration layer, that is a public transport or a transport data platform for the province, where all the data related to public transport is stored in a single space and is managed from that space, and that becomes the single source of truth for mobility in the province. So the Mobility as a Service platform, or the Mobility as a Service app and website, will then be consuming data from such a digital integration layer. And the data that we're talking about that will be in this digital integration layer includes things such as all the routes, all the public transport operators, all the fares, the timetables, the stops, and so on. So all of that will sit in that data platform. And then you need to have what we call account-based ticketing. Account-based ticketing is what I mentioned earlier, that will unlock the one province, one ticket system, where a person has a single account, mobility account, that they can load value into, or they can load currency into, and they can then access that currency using various fare media. I mentioned that they can use a physical card, they can use a mobile app, or any fare media that they want to use to travel. So you need to have such a system in place. And last but not least, you need to have a capability in the province for integrated planning and analytics. So all the various stakeholders need to be able to work together, need to have the systems and the tools, as well as a facility where they can work together to implement integrated planning and analytics, where they will analyze data in real time as well as historical data, and then start predicting what the future will look like, and making the necessary plans to do with that future, and ensure that they enable evidence-based policy and investment decisions. So what would be the strategic value of implementing this? One, from an economy point of view, it will stimulate economic growth because you'll have reduced congestions and reduced travel times in the province. You will improve productivity levels of staff, of workers, because they won't be spending a lot of their time on in traffic. And through this project, we'll be able to create jobs and in digital and mobility sectors. It encourages social inclusion because there will be better access to jobs and opportunities, where it will be easy for people to move between their homes and areas of employment. It will facilitate lower transport costs, create more safer and reliable journeys, which are inclusive for all communities. Obviously, it will have some environmental benefits as well, in terms of reduced congestions and emissions. It will assist people, because people will be using less of their private vehicles. So we'll be creating a situation where private transport is the preferred mode of mobility in the province, instead of private vehicles. It will encourage safety and security in the public transport space. So a lot of people use their vehicles because sometimes or some modes of public transport are not seen as safe and secure. But if we deal with those issues, we'll be able to encourage the use of public transport. And also, it will foster stronger institutions, where all the different institutions will start working together to implement integrated planning and make sure that everyone is aware of what everyone is doing, and leverage on each other's skills and resources to ensure that as a province, we all move together towards a mobility as a service. Now, what have we done to date in terms of getting closer to mobility as a service? So we are tracking this project, or this initiative that we are busy with, in terms of these 4 key elements, which is account-based ticketing, passenger service channels, that is where public transport users can get information around public transport, the integrated mobility platform that I spoke about earlier, as well as the smart mobility center. So What this entails is when it comes to account-based ticketing, we had to develop an IFM policy, integrated fare management policy, develop the business rules for the province, run a proof of concept, and then do the procurement and implementation of the entire ABT system. So we're currently sitting at 15% on this project because we've developed the IFM policy, and we currently, in parallel to that, we're in the process of running a proof of concept. And then in terms of passenger service channels, what we need to do is to establish a call center, develop a mobile application, that is the mass mobile application, develop a website, as well as establish a ground team, that is a team of people that will be located strategically in public transport hubs to assist those who are not technologically advanced with all the information related to public transport. So where we are with that, we are at 18% because we've already established the call center, and we're in the process of developing the mobile application. And then the other part is the integrated mobility platform. That is the data platform that I spoke about, that we need to have a data platform, collect all the data from all the modes of all the operators, as well as do the intimate integration into all the public transport operator systems and so on. And that's not something that you do once. It's something that you have to do continuously. You need to continuously integrate because not all operators are at the same level of maturity from a digitization point of view. So as and when more and more operators mature from a technology point of view, you need to continuously integrate them into the system. So we're sitting at 22% of that because we did establish a POC of the data platform, and we've collected some of the data from the operators. Last but not least, the Smart Mobility Center, where we need to establish the facility, install the necessary infrastructure, recruit the people that will be working in that facility, and fully operationalize it. So where we are, we're at 60% because we've already established the facility. We already have all the infrastructure, ICT infrastructure in the facility. We are currently busy with the operationalization of the Smart Mobility Center. So we are doing all of these in parallel. And as you can see, each of them are at different levels in terms of completion. In total, the initiatives is at 29% completion. And the reason for that is that we are facing challenges, as with every initiative, we are facing challenges. We are a government, it is a government initiative, and it is experiencing some limited funding challenges, stakeholder alignment, as well as scope creep, because with every change of leadership, there's always new priorities and so on, and new and more scope is added to the project as we go along. But that's where we are, colleagues. That's it from my side. I hope I'm still within the time allocated to me, Harry.
Absolutely, Nico. Thank you very much for this great presentation. We really appreciate that. Clearly, you've got lots of challenges you guys are managing there. And I can see, in terms of your activity-based, account-based ticketing and your passenger service channels, integrated mobility platform, Smart Mobility Center, that's excellent stuff we're listening to. So we're looking forward to seeing the development and the progress in these projects. So thank you very much for serving, for sharing with us. You'll be available a little bit later for the questions and answers.
100%.
Thank you, Nico. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Righty, ladies and gents. So let's have a look at our program. So our next presenter then will be Mr. Suren Gowanda. He's Business Development Manager of Kuba. And he's going to talk to us about smart public transport, the technology that moves people better. Thank you very much, Suren.
Hi, everyone. I'm just quickly sharing my screen. Harry, let me know once you can see it, please.
We can see it. Thank you, Suren.
Excellent. Okay, good day, everyone. My name is Suren Gowanda, and I am the Business Development, apologies for that. I'm the Business Development Manager at Kuba. At Kuba, we specialize in automated fare collection solutions for the public transport. Therefore, today my focus is going to be on technology in the public transport sector. Fortunately, Nico, the previous presenter, had already mentioned quite a few things that might be in my presentation as well. However, if you look at technology in public transport, it is just not Gauteng or the province. It's a South African problem that we need to look at. Before I continue, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Harry and the Transport Forum once again for arranging an event of key importance. Now, when we look at technology and public transport, the main aim of technology in public transport is to help move people better. If you look at what Nico has mentioned previously, there are challenges, and the aim is to use technology to make those challenges better or overcome those challenges. Public transport is one of the most important services in South Africa. For millions of people, public transport is not a luxury, it is a necessity. As we celebrate technology in public transport, I think the real question is not simply what new technology can I use, but the better question is how can we use technology to help move people better? Public transport connects people to work, to schools, universities, healthcare, and also social opportunities. When it fails, we feel the impact in the economy. When implementing smart systems, it must be deeply purposeful. When it comes to the South African public transport system, I think Nico touched on it quite a lot. Unfortunately, the public transport system in South Africa, it's unique, it's fragmented, and it's complex. Now, if we travel as a commuter, very rarely does a commuter travel in one single ride. It is usually a multimodal chain involving different modes of transport, which includes e-hailing, minibuses, buses, trains, and in some communities, walking is also a big part of the journey. The challenge is, not often are all these modes fully connected. And that's where the problem comes in. And I think that's where we need to look at how we can use technology to improve. Information may be limited, payment systems may differ for the different modes, timetables may not align, facilities may be unsafe or poorly maintained, and a delay in one part of the journey will impact the entire journey. This is where technology can be meaningful, and this is where we need to use technology to actually improve. Public transport can help create a more connective, responsive, and commuter-focused transport system. I think one of the most frustrating parts of commuting is not knowing when a bus will arrive, not knowing when a train is going to be delayed, not knowing which route to purchase or to take, and furthermore, not knowing which alternative mode of transport you can use to get to your destination. Smart public transport systems gives passengers those information. This can be done through mobile applications, SMS alerts, WhatsApp channels, electronic displays, public announcements, social media, and information screens at the different ranks. Smart systems should use more than just one communication channel. Now, when it comes to payments, I think payments is a challenge that most commuters are faced with. Payment is another area where technology can improve the commuter experience. Interoperable modes of transport have become a contentious point of discussion for a long time now. Smart payments take into consideration the aligning of all the different modes of transport. And as Nico mentioned previously, it's not just aligning the modes of transport, it's also aligning the fare structures, aligning the routes and zones. Smart payments must include smart cards, bank-issued cards, mobile applications, QR codes, and one of the other things we must consider is the account-based ticketing part of it, which allows for more flexibility when it comes to travel. The benefit of commuters is definitely the convenience. They can board faster, carry less cash, and manage their transport spending more easily. In South African environment, the shift to digital payments must also be managed carefully. It must not exclude passengers who are unbanked, passengers who use cash, or passengers that do not have smartphones. We have to take those things into consideration during the transition. Then I think one of the most important and most talked on thing is the power of data. The power of data is not collecting it. The power of data is using it to make better informed decisions. Like Nico mentioned earlier as well, having control centers that gives you all the information coming from the different systems is quite important. It is something that we don't have in terms of the integrated solutions and integrated technology we have. But the next step is taking that information and making it and using it for good, accurate information so that we can make informed decisions on how to do things and how to plan routes. This technology or this data can help us understand which routes are the busiest, where commuters are waiting the longest, the times of the highest demand, which areas are underserved. And these are all the information that these are all the data we can crunch to actually get this type of answers that we've been looking for. Now, I think when it comes to technology, one of the other things we always talk about is the cleaner sustainability environment. When it comes to the cleaner sustainability, we look at three things. We look at the immediate, we look at the medium term, and we look at the long term. When it comes to immediate goals, we can look at route optimization, we can look at reduced idling, we can look at encouraging public to use private cars, and these are all things that we could do much faster and do immediately. Medium-term goals, fuel monitoring systems, eco-driving tools. Long-term goals, electric and low-emission buses, smart traffic signals. At the end of the day, a smarter transport system can support cleaner cities. However, lower operating costs and healthy environments must be taken into consideration. Now, when it comes to technology, there are lots of vision as to where we want to take a province or South Africa. However, when it comes to technology, technology has evolved at a very fast pace. People have now been spoiled for choice and understanding that there's different types of technology that are out there addressing the same need. However, more choices does not always mean better outcomes. The key is to select solutions that are proven, practical, and aligned to business objectives. When looking at solutions, you need to look at solutions that are fit for purpose. The technology must directly address the needs and the requirements for the operator or the relevant stakeholders in terms of passengers, in terms of decision makers. Proven and reliable, tried and tested solutions definitely reduces uncertainty and gives you the confidence that the solution or system that you're using provides the answers that you're going to need at a much lower cost. Remember, sometimes using a system and it failing on implementation could cost you more at the end of the day. Relevant environment, the solutions that you are presenting and are actually implementing must be fit for the environment, must be linked to the processes, must be able to handle the skills, and you must be able to adopt it. I think cost effectiveness speaks for itself. In this day and age, any system that you implement must be cost effective. And the implementation costs needs to take into consideration the maintenance and support costs over the period of time. Scalable and future ready. When implementing systems, I think it's important to understand that putting a system is a massive investment upfront. And that investment that you're making must be able to take you in the years to come, not something that's going to be obsolete in a year or two, or not a solution that's going to have a problem and you're not be able to get parts or not be able to support in a year or two. And the last thing under that is also choosing the correct supplier. Choosing correct suppliers. I mean, if you look at, for example, fleet management solutions or automated fare collection systems or passenger counting, there are many companies in South Africa that do it, or many companies globally that do it. choosing the right supplier, you must make sure you choose a supplier with the correct track record, suppliers that provide you with solutions that are answering the questions and challenges that you're currently happening or having, and the support and capability once a solution has been implemented. These are the things you need to consider. Now, when you look at the smart transport systems, you also need to look at the human element of it. Smart transport systems is not just about a system. It's about better journeys, better access, and better lives. Behind every system are people. Technology should support commuters, drivers, mechanics, and planners. Do not replace their importance, but use them and give them the tools to do their jobs better and more effectively. In future, public transport must be safer, must be more reliable, must be inclusive, and must be integrated. To move people better, the commuter must remain at the center. I think that is who we're doing this exercise for. Now, as I promised, this is a short presentation, but in conclusion, smart public transport is not about technology. It is about using technology to solve real transport problems in South Africa and the transport environment. The future of public transport must be safer, more reliable, and more inclusive, and better integrated technology can help us get there. We do not measure success, but we do not measure success by how advanced the technology is. We measure success by the human impact it has. Are commuters waiting less? Are services more reliable? Are passengers' lives safer? Is payment easier? Are complaints resolved faster? And are people able to access opportunities much easier? The real purpose of smart public transport is simple: to move people better. Smart public transport is not about smarter systems, like I said. It's about the better journeys, about the access, and creating better lives by using this kind of technology. And as I promised, this is a short presentation. Some of the items I had wanted to discuss, the previous presenter had mentioned already, so I didn't want to duplicate it. But should you have any more questions, or should you require more information about public transport or technology in public transport, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is on the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suren. What a great presentation. You know, thinking of the modes not being connected and people not knowing, you know, when's the next bus, when is the next train. I've experienced that myself quite a lot. And those key considerations for technology solutions, you know, for my sins, I've been in the IT world myself many years ago, and those key considerations so important. If you choose the wrong platform, yeah, you've got lots of troubles waiting for you. So then, thank you so much. We're looking forward to talking to you in a panel discussion. Thanks a lot. Ladies and gents, our next presenter then is Mr. Justin Veldsman. He's the marketing manager for Zimmy Charge. They're also a new gold sponsor of the Transport Forum. And he's going to talk about driving efficiency, how smart technology is redefining modern logistics. Thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you so much, Harry. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your time. It is truly an honor to be one of the speakers. I am speaking on behalf of our organization called Zimmy, filling in for our fearless leader, Michael Mars, who was not able to present today. But I hope I can do as good a job in presenting this really exciting brand. Yeah, the previous presentations, I just want to say, well done, guys. You are truly innovating in that space, and it's truly exciting to see what you're doing. Very insightful. To the Transport Forum, well done, guys, on setting up this incredible event. I think this platform is truly astounding, and it's broadcasting a lot of the innovations that is currently taking place. So I'm truly honored to be here. So yeah, I will be basically speaking about our organization, giving you a rundown on what we are essentially doing. So when we talk about smart tech redefining modern logistics, we're not just talking about a shiny new electric van or a fancy dashboard. We are talking about solving a complex operational puzzle that every fleet operator, logistics director, and supply chain manager in South Africa is staring at right now. For decades, logistics has been driven by diesel, mechanical telematics, and manual route planning. But today, technology is merging energy management, vehicle hardware, and data analytics into one single ecosystem. South Africa's electric EV adoption rate, just to kind of give you a quick snapshot of that, roughly 1 in 4 new passenger vehicles around the world that's being sold are electric. In South Africa, that is under 0.5%. So you can see that there's a massive catch up that we need to be doing to kind of change this scenario. And I'm hoping that I can kind of present the what we are doing at Zimmy to kind of innovate this space. So over the next 20 to 25 minutes, I want to unpack how smart technology is shifting EV transitions from an intimidating green mandate into your fleet's biggest operational and finance advantage. Just going to take a moment to share my screen, so please bear with. Alrighty, so let's be completely honest about the pressure on logistics operators today. You are caught in what I call the fleet trilemma. You've got diesel volatility, which is causing the fuel essentially is your single largest, most unpredictable operational expense. Whether you are running light delivery vans or heavy 7-axle long haul rigs, you are at the mercy of global oil prices, current swings, and fuel surges. Then you have scope 3 customer mandates. 7 out of 10 commercial companies at present are now reporting direct demand from their corporate clients and stakeholders to decarbonize. If you are a 3PL or a logistics provider, your clients, which are retail giants, FMCG brands, industrial exporters, are all setting net zero goals. If you can't deliver zero emissions transport, you risk losing contract tenders to someone else who can. And then you have the third option, the third problem or dilemma. You cannot simply throw money at the problem, as margins in the transport sector are already razor thin. So you want to go green, but you cannot allow your cost per kilometer to skyrocket while doing so. So this is exactly where traditional thinking breaks down. If you treat EVs as just buying an electric truck, it feels way too expensive and risky. But when you apply smart tech, the entire equation changes. So why have many commercial fleets hesitated to switch to electric? Because historically, adopting EVs was fragmented. You had to go to an OEM for a truck, a supplier for a charger, negotiate with Eskom or municipal utilities for grid capacity, hire solar installers with specific experience and technical know-how, and try and stitch it all together with software. If one piece broke, everyone is pointing fingers at each other. At Zimmy, we eliminate that risk by delivering an end-to-end unified ecosystem. You have hardware built for light, medium, and heavy commercial vehicles, paired with high-power AC and DC rapid charging infrastructure. We offer energy infrastructure, which integrates solar power. A lot of organizations have already started introducing this. So depot load management, microgrids to bypass grid constraints. And then you have software, another product that we offer, which offers real-time telematics, energy monitoring, carbon auditing, and automated payment settling. From a finance perspective, Zimmy has also broken down that barrier by providing flexible OpEx lease or upfront purchase structures covering vehicles, chargers, and solar to protect your cash flow. So what exactly does this deliver? Through the introduction of EV infrastructure into your organization, you can expect up to 30% reduction in your overall cost per kilometer, up to 90% fuel cost savings by displacing diesel with electricity, and a total de-risk of your operations across first and third-party logistics, field services, sales fleets, and employee transport. Let's take a look under the hood of the technology that actually makes this work. Alrighty. The true core of modern smart technology isn't the battery in the vehicle. It's the software platform running behind it. On screen, you're looking at the Zimmy dashboard. This acts as the command center for fleet managers. Let's break down the 4 key tech layers that you'll find in our software. Charging infrastructure, telemetry. You can't always afford chargers going offline. Our platform continuously monitors uptime, maintaining a target of over 95%, active power draw, total energy throughput, and individual charging sessions across all your depot locations. If an anomaly occurs, automated alerts trigger remote diagnosis or diagnostics before a driver even notices. Our team is pretty hands-on when it comes to the charger management, as mentioned. So the organization or Zimmy is very locked in to ensuring that your organization never experiences any downtime. Fleet and battery intelligence, we integrate directly into your existing telematics system. So organizations like Geotab, Mix Telematics, or Ctrack is organizations that we partner with to ensure that our systems are speaking to one another. In one view, you see live vehicle locations, current state of charge, real-time range remaining, and battery consumption efficiency across your entire fleet. Our software also provides granular carbon and finance reporting. So when your corporate clients ask for Scope 3 emissions data, you don't need spreadsheets or estimations. The platform automatically generates auditable cost, energy, and carbon savings reports broken down by individual vehicle, depot site, and customer contract, all easily accessible at a click of a button. With regards to With regards to corridor access and public roaming, while 80 to 90% of your charging happens overnight at your depot, range anxiety on long routes is real. At Zimmy, we understand this. So we connect your fleets to over 200 public chargers across South Africa's key logistics corridors. The drivers have access to simply tap to initiate the transaction, and an automated billing is sent straight back to your corporate dashboard. No driver out-of-pocket cash or paper receipts required. So technology is only as good as its real-world executions. That's why we partner with global OEM leaders to match the right vehicle hardware to your operational duty cycles. For last mile and light commercials, vehicles like the Mercedes-Benz eSprinter, the Photon eView, the DFSK EV70, and the BYD models deliver incredible range and cargo volume for urban express deliveries and FMC distribution. For medium and heavy freight, we deploy JAC electric rigid trucks and SANY electric heavy-duty truck tractors. These heavy vehicles produce zero tailpipe emissions, cut cab noise and vibrations for drivers, and deliver massive torque instantly, perfect for inter-depot shuttles and port to warehouse routes. Every vehicle in this lineup uses a standard Type 2 CCS2 charging plug, which is the universal standard in South Africa, ensuring complete interoperability across your charging network. So these are some of the vehicles that I've just mentioned. This is your light vehicles that's best in its class. We have tested these vehicles in South African conditions and are essentially vetting that this vehicle is perfectly suited for the South African consumer. These are the heavy vehicles, as mentioned earlier, just to give you an idea of the opportunities and actual vehicles currently available in South Africa for organizations hoping to switch to electric mobility. Just going to move over to a case study example. So Bakers SA Limited is one of our trusted partners. In essence, theory is great, but let's talk about real world numbers. Let's look at a case study with one of South Africa's top logistics provider, Bakers SA. The problem, Bakers face strong pressure from their contract clients to cut carbon emissions. However, like many operators, they faced site power grid capacity limits, a lack of clear cost breakdown metrics for electric transport, and needed to protect their operational margins. So the Zimmy technology, how we assisted this client is we conducted a comprehensive energy profiling across more than 7 depot sites. We deployed high-power DC rapid chargers directly at their dispatch and loading docks. And we rolled out electric commercial vehicles, including the Mercedes-Benz e-Sprinter and the heavy e-Actros trucks. Sorry about that. The results speak for themselves. Up to 85% fuel cost savings compared to the diesel equivalent, and 31% total fleet carbon reduction in under 12 months. Seamless scale up across the client accounts without operational downtime. Today, industry giants like Bidvest International Logistics, DP World, Bakers, and Premier Mobility are using Zimmy technology to turn sustainability into a competitive advantage. To close out, I want to leave you with the top question fleet managers ask when evaluating this tech. Aren't EVs too expensive upfront? The answer to that is capital cost is higher, but because of running on electricity is up to 90% cheaper than diesel, the operational savings quickly outpace the purchaser's price, lowering your total cost of ownership. Next question that we get asked. What about range and load shedding? Commercial EVs routinely cover 200 to 400 kilometers on a single charge, ideally for daily duty cycles. For grid instability, our smart software manages charging off-peak, supplemented by depot solar and battery storage installed directly by us. So we are able to kind of break through that hurdle if the client requires that assistance. And the third question, how do we test this without risking our operations? And this is, I think, one of Zimmy's great offerings. We understand the uncertainty that comes with EV adoption, as mentioned in the numbers earlier. And the way we combat this is we offer short-term pilot leasing packages. You can test Zimmy vehicle chargers and software on actual routes with real payloads before making the long-term commitment. So I would like to end this presentation off by saying that behind Zimmy is a team of mechatronics engineers, software architects, and EV project specialists dedicated to supporting your transition. The future of logistics isn't coming. It's already here in on South Africa's roads. We would like you to visit our website if you require any further information. And if you would like to set up a meeting to kind of unpack EV transitioning in your organization, we are happy to do so as well. I hope that I effectively conveyed who we are and the amazing work that we are currently doing in not only helping clients transition into an EV fleet, but also to see the cost and operational benefits that come with that. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Justin. This is excellent. You know, if you talk about 80% cost savings and reducing carbon by 31%, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, that this is excellent. Thank you. Hopefully, you will be available for the panel discussion.
100%. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Harry. Thanks everybody.
Justin. Thanks for the presentation. Really appreciate that.
You are most welcome, sir.
Right, so ladies and gents, our next presenter then is Mr. Renko Berg, and he's the co-founder of Control Fleet. And he's going to talk to us about the connected transport ecosystem. Thank you, Renko. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry. Like always, thanks for the invitation, and it's lovely to be with you. It's a very cold day in Cape Town, so I hope everybody has got their own coffees as they go through the digital playrooms. I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you, Renko.
Okay. The most common used phrase globally is, "Can you see my screen, Harry?"
We can, yes.
Lovely. Excellent. So very excited to talk to you about the connected transport ecosystem. Here in Control Fleet, that is a topic that we live every day. We are a transport software application business that deals with and works with the transport market. And hence we are privileged to be invited into the heart of transport operators on a daily, weekly basis, where we really get to practical grips of what are the challenges. Where do transport operators currently have their needs? What are the challenges when it comes to either not being connected or wanting to be connected or are connected in a transport ecosystem, but benefits, challenges, opportunities, and obviously that is a moving target as we progress through this landscape. So I would like to unpack today just a bit of context to where do we find ourselves currently if we think about the connected transport ecosystem. And a lot of that we connect back to the general tendency of where the industry is currently at when it comes to digitization. And then I'm going to try and get a little bit more practical on some examples of how we currently as a business are seeing some of that play out at our transport clients in real life examples. So let's take a little journey back in history and take some stock of where we find ourselves. And I think if you look at this timeline, currently, as we are now, not futuristic, we are in the fourth industrial revolution where artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, big data, that is the realm that we live in. That is the norm. That is currently the present. And it is probably one of the most disruptive phases that the logistics industry has seen itself in the last couple of decades. It's one of those that you, in shorter window periods of 2 to 3 years versus 5 to 10 years, you can noticeably feel the difference in terms of how operators are thinking and how they are navigating through challenges that are different now than it was 2 years ago and even 1 year ago. If we think about the Industrial Revolution and we bring it back locally into South Africa, what does that even mean? I think many transport operators are still challenged with some practical aspects that might feel that the fourth industrial revolution is not as practical as others do experience it. I think now that the energy stability is a bit more stable, load shedding might not necessarily be top of mind anymore, but other practical aspects are still within the fourth industrial revolution quite privy to transport operators really delving into the tech. For example, aging infrastructure, typical congestions, skill shortages, which will become even more prevalent as we navigate into digital realm. Those are still aspects that are real, that are not necessarily preventing transport operators, but are definitely impacting how they are currently being able to experience this in the fourth industrial revolution. There's a quote, and a lot of them are used frequently nowadays. The one I really enjoy to use is many associate the rollout of, for example, artificial intelligence directly to the same speed of trust. What does that mean? I think in many of us, practically for myself on a personal note, a lot of these technology aspects that we see, we only fully adopt and trust as soon as we are involved and trusting the outcome, we use it more and more and more. And I think the speed of that industrial revolution in tech and the speed of how we are trusting it does not necessarily always correlate. And I think that is where some of us potentially get a bit intimidated, and in certain age generations we start backtracking, others start trying to keep up and really indulge themselves in the technology. So what does it mean? Obviously it plays out quite differently when we look at large corporations versus smaller size. If we look at larger entities, we definitely are seeing this in mainstream media and experiencing things like the smart port management systems, obviously automated warehousing in many cases, especially in South Africa. We are already quite used to the term dark warehouse, where we don't necessarily have very little human intervention in terms of warehouse management. We obviously in the transport space have a lot of artificial intelligence agents that work and help us do optimizations. And then the digital platforms that are on a daily basis impacting transport operators, either with their dealings with their clients or with their suppliers, and how they either have to use external platforms or need to integrate with certain external platforms. But when we look at more SME, smaller, medium-sized transport entities and logistics operators, for them, typically, they are still digitizing more core operational systems. So for them, getting away from paper-based applications, digitizing documentation, or making sure that their basic tracking is stable, connected, and that they consistently can trust that data, especially if they go cross-border, or the fact that they are now just migrating from a standalone accounting package that might still even be on a server, digitizing that to a web-based application. Those are more privy to that type of environments and what is important for them. The cost associated to the SME digitizing and a large corporate is also obviously vastly different. A common string that I, however, believe that it is quite an inconsistent adoption of tech across either the large and SMEs. It is not mainstream. It is each of those entities, depending on size, are in their own life stages of what digitization means for them. If we look at certain subsector functions within the transporter's business and day-to-day operations, and we see where those digitization and the connected ecosystem really becomes practical, one obvious one is what we think of as documentation. In the transport space, for decades, it has been a paper-bound industry that is rapidly progressing, and we all know that COVID was out of all the bad, was one good element where that really leapfrogged the documentation digitization process. The fact that we are getting more and more onto a predictive decision-making ability, because we have got live data to access, makes that we can make decisions better. And then that the fact that our transport operators are being asked to share more and more real-time data to their shareholders that they work with. Those are small aspects that are practically on a day-to-day basis being asked for transporters to digitize, and how they have to link into a connected eco environment. Obviously, just in summary, some of these areas are progressing faster than others. We all know that data and how that helps us make decisions, and how we are incorporating artificial intelligent agents that can help us run scripts of data to make decisions is top of mind. But we also now know that before we can get to that stage, we first need to digitize the entry of data and what data we are working with, either as a logistics operator ourselves or with the third parties that we are dealing with, before we can try and get more insight out of the data. So if we look at typically where budget is spent by transport operators, where do they actually start spending money in terms of that realm of digitization? And if you think of that as a phased approach, most transport operators are still spending up to 50% of their budget getting their core systems digitized. That is moving from a paper-based application, that is migrating from a legacy server-based application, that is going from something which is not digital to digitizing with a application. Thereafter, we get to how those applications will start to integrate, how the flow of data is not siloed from one application a transporter uses to another, or from his own application to his client or vendor. And then lastly, in the third phase, which we see adoption happening, is where the automation of that across systems and the flow of data to make decisions starts to get optimized. Again, there's no right or wrong in terms of where you should be. What is privy to you as a transport operator and what impacts your business the most is typically where you will levitate and find yourself in terms of implementation, and obviously the cost associated to that. Now we get to a little bit of the world that I like to call the acronym world, and that is where all these type of systems typically need to start playing around and together and integrate in this ecosystem that we speak of. So when we think of typical applications that a transport operator uses for themselves, typically the first acronym player on the field would be the financial application or the financial ERP. And then most likely followed by a specialized transport management system, fleet management system, or telematics application. And those are where we see the initial integrations happening first. Making sure your operational tool is integrated with your financial application, or your multiple operational tools are integrated with each other. Tracking integrated with your transport system, your fleet management system integrated with your transport application, and both of them, for example, feeding into financial ERP. Then the ability to potentially also then integrate that with inventory applications if it is relevant in your business. Or if you are also have adopted a communication or a CRM management tool where you, for example, are using something else to communicate with your clients. And yes, that could even be WhatsApp, integrating your operational workflow and prompting alerts via a communication tool like WhatsApp or not. And ultimately, potentially, even then integrating with your clients' end applications and platforms. That last example is something that really is becoming more and more common as a requirement from clients when dealing with their logistics counterparties. And hence, we start seeing that as the typical phrase that we use as a control tower. Or just put differently, a central point of digital control, one point of truth that represents all these workflows and the data flows between you as a transporter managing your own environment, and then also when it connects into the ecosystems that you work with, either the suppliers you are incorporating, maybe subcontractors, or the clients you are serving that you need to provide certain key functions and KPIs to uphold a good service. And that can be done all digitally. As soon as that does happen, obviously, another a set of challenges and considerations become top of mind. Cybersecurity, standardization of processes, the ability that you have enough intelligent or skilled IP in your workforce that understands this digital realm that you've created. And as that changes, that somebody can actually drive that change further in your business, which speaks about the skills that we need. And that is that muscle we need to start practicing and building in businesses, that we are remaining on top of whatever control towers we are building, that as soon as those change, because the applications in that control tower will change, those that your suppliers use or that you feel are relevant to you because of cost or ease or whatever factors will change. But do you have the consistency in your team based on skills that knows and understands what the outcome is that you've built from your control tower, if you want to call it, to know that you can still continue providing that and giving the required outcome, versus being derailed as soon as any of these ecosystem applications change, and then becoming almost victim to whatever digital structure has been built, and you're not even able to manage or understand it anymore. So doing all of that, where do we go? What happens? We go from managing fleet from a disconnected, non-central, siloed method to a digital single point of control. And that looks, again, like I said, quite different for many role players. But the starting point, as soon as you bring multiple applications together, you get top of mind results. The fact that if you, for example, just integrate your telematics to your transport management system, real-time visibility instantly, continuously. The way that you can then share data becomes easy. For example, if you integrate your client's customer portal to your own operational tool, the fact that you can easily incorporate the orders and instructions from your client, react on those instructions, and instantly share data, that not just reduces your internal potential cost from trying to manage that complexity with headcount and effort and time, but you do provide better customer service. You can be in a proactive state versus a reactive state. And all of that quantified back into monetary value, in many cases, is hard for transporters to quantify. Hence, they take some of them take quite a bit longer to take that leap into starting to digitize. But more and more, as we see the results, transporters are awakening to the fact that that is the direction and that is how they can get to those benefits. So just to make it a little bit more practical in our realm, if we look at a transport management system, we natively link onto the tracking that our transport operators use. And then, because we've integrated the operational scheduling of orders based onto the telematics data or the telemetry data, then we can start, even before a journey, making that master data relevant for a client, making sure we create the templates of exact routes, exact waypoints, entering exact specific due dates and times of orders when they need to be done, creating forms that we need our drivers to complete at certain tasks. All of that pre-journey data is then created and ready for us when we start executing. When we get to execution stage, because we've then overlaid, for example, the tracking data of with the orders, and we can integrate with a client's platform, the order flowing from the client directly into the transport system, we can immediately, swiftly start scheduling orders and then look at the execution layer. The execution layer telling us where is asset relevant to what it is doing, or in many cases, what it is not doing at the moment. And how can we start alerting users in a real prompt manner to know that I have to action off route, unscheduled stop, late arrival, not moving. Those type of alerts that can make and break customer service, make and break cost decisions, is only available and can only really be a valuable driver if you have got that integrated ecosystem. Obviously, as you go, a very top of mind aspect is the risk and the risk management that always continues during, pre and post journeys. In many cases, most of the work starts before the truck even leaves the yard, and that's making sure that the inspections are done. That's making sure that the relation to the asset combination and driver in terms of permits, the journey ahead, and that the checklist, if you would, or the requirements have been met before starting. Now, the headache for most transporters is that that's manual. Those are on different paper sheets. The workshop does their best to try and collate a lot of data. Obviously, the operator does the same, driver does something different, but nowhere is there a single point that we can digitally confirm that we are happy and accurate before a journey starts. And obviously, when the journey progresses, that we can pick up on risk and how can we then mitigate and react quickly, and where needed, change our decision making in terms of the execution while the journey is progressing. Obviously, at the end of any journey, there's a lot of data that we can collate. Typically, that would be where you start debriefing. How do you take that digital documents and turn it into a quality that can result into an invoice? How can I manage what I have planned as a journey versus what actually happened as a plan versus actual? How can I relate back to my client in terms of time wasted, standing time, where I can accurately report, to have a very constructive discussion of my counterparts on what I need to improve, potentially where they can assist with that improvement. That type of discussion, that type of digitization of documentation really only can happen if you've got that ecosystem and digital applications in place to get that right. Obviously, the reporting is what most transport operators are after: profit and loss, income and cost per kilometer. But a lot of other data elements is what they have and need to have robust discussions with their suppliers involved or their clients. And because that data is not digitized or not integrated, it takes time, and most of the time it posts the urgency of when they needed to have the discussion, and then they miss the opportunity. Wanted to give you a practical example. We recently completed a project with an entity where, to showcase the integrated ecosystem, where we had an example of a retail client that works with multiple transporters using multiple telematics providers, and it was hard for that role players to all together see one single point of operational truth. Because you can imagine that somewhere where there's a need for visibility, in most cases, it results in one of the parties having to do more work, either capturing more data or embracing another system that is not core to what they want in their own operation. What we have, however, did here to try and streamline that is we linked onto the telematics of almost up to 35 different transporters that were used in that example for that retail entity. And we could then collate that data back in one single point for the track and trace visibility. But obviously, that becomes quite sensitive. Transport operators don't want to share their tracking data continuously with any of their role players, only when there's orders relevant for those parties together. Hence, we've then brought in a function that we call the subcontractor portal. So the retail client then gave each of his transporters a subcontractor portal. When they create orders, they're allocated to those subcontractors. It reflects on their portal, and all they need to do is to drag and drop that order into the vehicle that will do the order. As soon as that happens, then only does the vehicle, its position, its ETA, its route become relevant and visible for the retail client. And that could enable the retailer to know which orders are en route, where do they need to prepare for stoppages at loading or offloading points, where are they potentially going to experience delays, and in many cases where they are at fault potentially at maybe causing loading and offloading downtime delays. The transports, however, only needed to do a drag and drop, did not need to try and figure out which trucks have got access given or not, and did I have to put a time limit on there or not. they could navigate that world by putting an automation that the visibility would only start at loading point and finish at offloading point. Some of those transporters use different transport management systems, and there we could integrate the two, so they could do that from their own transport system, which feeds into ours, which ultimately would feed the data into the retailer's platform. Benefits, obviously, single point of truth. Everybody, all the role players around the table know exactly what's going on. The communication layers is not manual. There's not the persistent calling of where's your truck? When will it actually really be here? Thanks for your Excel update, but I don't know, that was about half an hour ago. Has the picture changed? All of that has been eliminated, and the discussion was more robust about, we see where your vehicles are, let's try and get a solution. Vehicles are not moving. We can see it, you can see it, let's get into problem-solving mode. And then ultimately, this type of transport ecosystem, we are a complete believer that the more this fourth industrial revolution grows, the more the need to digitize processes that are not digitized is prevalent to transport operators, the more there will be applications. And as soon as that happens, which is great, the more opportunity there is for these applications, which in many cases are best of breed, should integrate. And as soon as we find that software applications are willing, are keen, and are able to integrate, we build into an ecosystem where value is multiplied. And I am from a very staunch belief that we are now at a stage where we cannot not integrate. It is not if we want to integrate, it is how easy can we continuously integrate, because as soon as we do that, we multiply value. And that integration is either from an operational tool in-house or from there to your supplier, your client, and continuous. And then we will see this ecosystem continuously creating value, where the driver is the digital realm, single point of truth, and just all in all, more efficiency. Thank you. Thanks, Harry. How was that for time?
Renke, this was excellent. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Interesting talking about the fourth industrial revolution in the panel discussion. I would like to touch on the fifth industrial revolution, just for interesting sake, and tap into your knowledge, because that's such an interesting topic for me. But yeah, being reactive and going to predictive and also doing the value proposition in all of this. What can I invoice, equality to invoice? I think that's the business you guys understand very well. And I'm sure the people are looking forward to talking to you in a panel discussion. Hopefully you're available in a panel discussion.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Renke. Appreciate your presentation. It was great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Right, ladies and gents, last but not least, is Mr. Christian Storm. He's the head of data and software of Ctrack, and as a platinum sponsor of the Transport Forum. And he's going to talk about the future of fleet intelligence, introducing DOT. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Harry. Sorry, just getting more stuff like that. Let me share my screen.
I like the shirt, Christian.
Let's see. It can only share. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, cool. You just start the presentation.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me at the Transportation Forum. I am Christian Storm, Head of Software and Data at Ctrack. The theme today is celebrating great technology in transport, and I think if we're going to going to celebrate great technology in transport, then we have to talk about AI. Not because AI is a buzzword, and not because every problem suddenly needs AI and AI label, but because AI is starting to change how we work with information. And it's changing how we find patterns, how we make decisions, and how we help people act faster in a complex environment like fleet operations. Today, I want to talk about the future and lead into something we are building at Ctrack called DOT. DOT is not my whole story today. It is simply the friendly face of a much bigger idea, making fleet intelligence easier to reach, to understand, and easier to use. Fleet intelligence has already come a long way. For many years, the main question was, where is the vehicle? Then it became, what is the vehicle doing? Now the question is becoming much more interesting. Why is this happening? What does it mean? And what should we do next? That is the real shift. We're moving beyond dashboards. Dashboards are still important, reports are still important, alerts are still important, but the next leap is not just adding more screens. The next leap is turning live fleet data into cleaner judgment at operational speed. Because in a fleet environment, the value is not only in seeing information, the value is knowing what deserves the right attention. This is where AI starts to help, but it only helps properly when it's connected to the full fleet intelligence stack. As on its own is not enough. It needs signal, it needs context, it needs rules, it needs workflows, and it needs to understand what the user is allowed to do. When those pieces work together, the system moves from raw signal to context, to insight, to decisions, to action. That is when fleet intelligence becomes more useful, not because the AI is replacing people, but because it's helping people get through complexity faster. Instead of every alert, every report, and screens living separately, AI can help connect the dots. The important idea here is context. In fleet management, AI is only useful when it understands the vehicle, the driver, the event history, the route, and what the operator is trying to achieve. Better intelligence starts with better context. In fleet operations, context is everything. A harsh event by itself is just a signal, but a harsh event linked to driver, a route, a delivery window, vehicle condition, history, and business rules becomes something much more useful. AI can reason across the information the fleet teams already use every day. Vehicle telemetry, event statuses, jobs and routes, maintenance information, user permissions, manuals, and test workflows. The opportunity is not to invent a new reality. The opportunity is to bring the existing operational reality together so the system can help answer what matters here now. The first practical win in reducing operational noise, fleet teams do not need every signal shouted at them. They need a few signals that truly deserve attention. We see clients with more than 1,000 unread messages. That's not because those messages are not important, but because there are too many of them. Some are urgent, some are useful, some are no longer relevant by the time someone gets to them. And over time, that noise makes the whole message stream feel less meaningful. This is where I see AI acting almost like a calm ship supervisor. It can look for weirdness. For example, unusual events, statuses, stale data, repeated alarms, or combination of events that do not look normal. And then it can explain the risk in plain language. Is this likely to affect safety? Is it a delay risk? Is it a compliance issue? Is it an asset health issue? Or is it actually data quality problem? And then instead of overwhelming the operator, it can suggest the next best step. Short, clear, useful. And when judgment is needed, it hands control back to the human operator. The next change is that reports become conversations. Today, if a user wants an answer, they often need to know where to go, which module, the filter, the date ranges, the report, the asset group. That works for trained users, but it still takes time. With AI, the user can ask questions in a natural language. Which vehicles were underutilized this week? Show me the assets with repeated harsh driving events. Why did the route take longer than normal? Which alerts should I process first? The important part is that the answer must be concise. No one operation needs a long essay while they are trying to run a fleet. The answer should be short enough to act on, but grounded enough to trust. But the biggest step is helping users complete work. This is where AI becomes more than just a search box. It becomes a guided operational layer. For example, it can open the right page, find the assets or operators or reports, apply filters, collect missing detail before starting workflows, and very importantly, ask for confirmation before anything centers or changes. That last point matters. AI should not be reckless. It should help users move faster, but within safe boundaries. So the future is not just asking a system a question, the future is asking a system to help you get the work done. That brings us to trust. Responsible AI keeps the operator in command. For fleet AI to be useful, it must be bounded. It must be grounded in real data, real fleet data, manuals, and approved workflows. It must respect permissions. It must leave an audit trail. It must be honest when it's unsure. The safest assistance is not the one that pretends to know everything. The safest assistance is the one that knows when to ask. This is especially important in transport when decision can affect safety, service delivery, compliance, and cost. So the goal is not blind automation. The goal is assisted intelligence with the human still leading. This leads us to Dot. Dot is the friendly face of C-Track AI. The idea behind Dot is simple. Powerful fleet intelligence should not feel difficult to access. A user should be able to talk with a friendly assistant that brings important messages to life. Let the system watch event statuses in the background or ask for help completing approved workflow steps. Dot is not meant to replace the platform. Dot is meant to make the platform easier to use. It gives people a more natural way to interact with fleet intelligence. And for me, this is where AI becomes exciting. Not when it looks impressive in a demo, but when it quietly helps someone do their work better. So, time for the demo. Let's hope it's as impressive. Let me just move closer. Can you see this, the website?
Yes, we
Cool.
can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move this one. Yeah. Okay, so this is Dot. I think did I share my sound? I don't think I've shared my sounds. Sorry, I'm just gonna stop and then enter again. Sorry, my bad. Share sound. Okay. I'm going to share this screen. Okay, just let me know if you can hear this.
We can see and hear.
What can I help with?
Did you hear it speak?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm just gonna ask it to log me in as a default.
Sure. Signing into Crystal with the save details.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask it to go to the replay screen. Go to go to the replay screen. Oh, sorry, I have to ask it.
Sure. Opening replay.
So you can see it's quite interactive, and with AI now, and if you have the building blocks within your system, you can quite easily perform advanced functions with AI assistants like Dot that we've built. But it doesn't merely go there. It can also help you answer questions. How do I do a replay? Sorry, the text is still not perfect. How do I do a replay? So it's linking into our user manuals and our automated test cases.
Open the replay page from the replay menu. In the replay selection section, choose the asset and the required date or trip, then start the replay. Use the replay timeline and legend to view and control the playback, and there is also a single trip on map replay option.
So it can tell us how to do it, and it can even do things for us. So for instance, if I want to create subgroup X under what was it called? It was called AA test.
I am going to create subgroup X under AAA test. Should I continue? Reply yes to approve or no to cancel.
So now it's going to open the group screen and it's going to add a subgroup under AA test. So this as well, like how people actually navigate the site. Crystal is a very complex system, so I can really help people use it and get the best out of it. But then it also links into our data warehouse, so I can ask it, who is my best driver? Hopefully it's not, sorry, the sub dev environment, so it might take a bit of time.
Your best driver is
Got it.
Gerhard Labiskagny. He has completed 58 trips covering 2,821.53 kilometers with only 40 safety
Can tell
events.
me things about the data, and I can even ask it generate a report for my top 5 products. Might also take a bit of time. No.
I generated the report as a
Okay, so I
PDF.
got the
You
report.
can download it
So
below.
this is also multiple AI agents working in the background together. So one does the report, one does the UI, or one does the UI interfaces. But here you can see it generates. Wait, here you can see. Sorry, let me just pause it to the screen. Here you can see the generated report it just did, and it shows the top 5. So there's not 5 drivers. We only have 4 on this list. But you can see the list, the ratings, and you can basically ask this chatbot anything about your data based on your permissions, obviously, and it will be able to generate it dynamically for you. And then we even went as far as to make it to give you the power of AI itself, and to say, for instance, be an operator. So then it
Operator
will
mode
go
on.
in
I will check
operator
events
mode
every.
and check your
I received a
drinks.
panic event, but I am ignoring it for now.
So if it gets a certain amount of panics that you can also set, only notify me when certain amount of panics trigger, and we even want to build it further that it will actually ask you if you want to call the person or auto call the person and get some information from him. Maybe the panic is real, and then you can do, yeah, you can tell this AI agent what you want to look for and how it should behave in that that instance, but give you the ability to call, to get data, to look at the whole ecosystem and the context, and understand the context to filter out what you want. And that is the demo. Okay, so I think this shows what can be possible with AI today. I think the future Fleet platform does 4 things very well. First, it connects live data with business context. Second, it teaches the system approved workflows. Third, it guards actions with permissions and audits. And fourth, it assists operators in the moment that matter. This is the future I see for fleet intelligence. No more noise, no more complexity, but better timing, better context, and better action. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Christian. This is seriously impressive. I've just said to Remco, we must talk about the fifth industrial revolution. I think here it is. And it's taking it a step further. And in terms of machine learning and all that type of stuff, and brings in proximity and stuff like that. That's so interesting. Now, thank you very much for this. I'm quite sure they're looking forward to engaging with you in a panel discussion just now. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Harry.
Excellent presentation. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Right, ladies and gents, we're getting to the end of our session today, sadly. So you can see there we've got now a short panel discussion where I'm going to request all our panelists to kindly switch on their cameras and unmute themselves, both of that, so that I can see them in a list and do spotlights. I'm going to remind the panelists at the end of the panel discussion, I'm going to ask closing remarks from each one of you. And then also the people that staffed the booths at the very end of the session, I'm going to ask you to announce your winners, and then we'll close the session. So great stuff. Thank you very much. So can we have our panelists to only unmute themselves and switch on their cameras, all the presenters, and right, we need to just get all this spotlighting going. Don't know if them are still available. Suren, I think we can't see you on the camera. Maybe it's the light there.
Hi, Harry. Hi, Harry. I'm just having a problem with my camera. Just give me a second.
Okay, no problem. Sentiment Justin, are you still with us?
I am, yeah.
There you are.
Hi,
there you are.
everybody.
Harry, I'm just going to log out and log back in just to check if the camera works.
Thank you, Suren. Right, while we're waiting for Suren to rejoin, ladies and gents, the panel discussion, you can kindly, either put up your hand, raise your hand, as they say, or you can unmute yourself. Once recognized, I will then give you opportunity to ask your question. You can, when you do that, kindly identify yourself, your name, company representing. You can direct your question to one member of the panel or the panel as a whole. All right, so I see here is Suren. Suren, you're back in. Right, let's go to Samantha. Samantha Dunlop. Dan, Samantha, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Harry. Good afternoon now, everyone. Yeah, I'm Samantha Dunlop. I'm based in the Eastern Cape. I am the strategic manager for Exporters Eastern Cape, as well as a global sales exec for Crane Worldwide Logistics. This question is to Christian and Renko. I've been working very closely with the citrus pack houses and farmers and all the exporters, because obviously we're in citrus season at the moment. And one of the biggest issues that we're finding with regards to where trucks are, where containers are, is, you know, the routing from farms and pack houses to port, where it is in the stacks, or if it's stored somewhere at a plug point. And Transnet is actually looking for information like that so that they can understand what trucks are coming in, how many bookings they need to make available for that specific time slot, etc. Are you guys working with any citrus or grapes or in the farming sector that you're having success with this type of tracking?
Thank you, Samantha. Renko, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. So first of all, I think one needs to be sort of clear, when does it need to be the asset being tracked versus the cargo? Ultimately, it's always the cargo, right? But we track the asset because the asset is moving the cargo. But sometimes the cargo gets dismounted from the asset and gets replaced on a different asset. I think then we get to a stage of hybrid. So meaning, what do we track? Are we tracking the device, the tracking of the vehicle, or maybe something within the cargo, like a monitoring prompting tool? So in our experience, it comes down to what exactly the role players want to see. If it is conditions regarding the cargo, and the cargo will get dismounted a lot and will be used on different assets or different, even different transporters, then it potentially is better to track something within the cargo. And there we've seen linking onto monitoring tools or devices that you can associate with the cargo, which also keeps track of temperature and humidity and movement. And wherever then that cargo is moved, if it's containerized or palletized, that is where it will show on the monitoring. If it's tracking the asset, then the operator will have to go into some sort of tool to associate what cargo is on which asset. Then we just keep tracking the asset. So then the operator is just a little bit more involved, where the operator would actually go into the transport application to say, I'm dismounting this cargo, and this is the next asset you should track now. This asset is going to tell us where the cargo is next. That's just my experience to date.
Yeah, so from SingTrack point of view, we're busy developing. We had trailer tracking. We're busy implementing it on Crystal, and that actually, with our Bluetooth devices, it can automatically pick up if a trailer is behind a truck. So it will sync up if it's following each other for a certain period of time. And so we will have this data going forward in the future. So we will probably engage with the job. Who did you say again?
Citrus, the Citrus Growers Association.
Yes, and maybe get them some data so that they can see, because we have a wide, well, client base is very wide, from mining to farming, etc. So yeah, then we can engage. But currently we don't have that data yet for the trailer specifically.
Okay. I think, Renko, you do make a point, because the container itself goes through multiple parties, from when it gets picked up at the port on a truck, goes to the pack house, gets dropped, packed, and then on a different truck going to port, and then dropped, and then go into stacks, etc. So yeah, it would probably be, as you said, either hybrid model or something actually in the container. Because I think for them, the biggest issue is they want to see where these containers are in the supply chain, and how long it is standing there. Because obviously with them, it's a time sensitive. They want to make sure that they're catching the right vessels, and there's a shelf life of the fruit inside. Yeah.
But you see, for example, the very good example, they want to know that, but the consignor or the consignee maybe wants to know, was my temperature continuous and uninterrupted? And so they want to see something else. You might want just to know which transporter was involved, and at which leg, and what's an ETA. So then, different stakeholders are trying to see the same visibility, but what elements. And I think you just need to prioritize from what you can control. Maybe you can't get a probe monitor on your containers. It's just not feasible. It's not cost effective, but it's easier for you to know, I only deal with 15 hauliers. I can rather just link onto all their respective tracking, and I can then get 80% of the way and help Transnet to see visibility and standing times. I can't necessarily then give my end consumer the probe of the temperature. Or I can do both, but then I need to have tracking and probe.
Okay.
Right.
I think it's maybe a discussion that we can have around that.
Thank you,
Yes,
Samantha.
Thank you for the message.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Anybody else with a question? Seems to me they stunned with all your presentations. While they're thinking, my fifth industrial revolution, it's very interesting for me because it brings it back to the person, isn't it? When you think about the previous was more machine-driven operations and stuff like that, but the fifth, I think, that's my opinion, the fifth industrial revolution brings it back to you as a person, to the person operating there. I walk into a shopping center and they pick up my cell phone, and then my cell phone starts sharing information with me with the, the products I'm interested in and what store I should go. I come already out because I should have done that online. It takes the business to my phone or my tablet. But maybe just some interesting stuff from you guys. How do you see the fifth industrial revolution of the future?
Yeah, I think humans will always stay in the loop. I'm very much involved with the AI capabilities or the AI products, and they are getting very good very quickly. And I've seen there was some protests in America, in Silicon Valley as well, at OpenAI, where they protesting, the actual IT people that built the software were protesting for them to stop. But I think there's also going to be a human element, as it will just make you more. It will just enable you to do work quicker and work more efficiently, as you can ask it anything. But if you have the base knowledge of how to tweak it and how to guide it, you can actually build powerful things. And that's what we're seeing with our technology people here as well. With AI, their output just increases dramatically. Do I see a point where it becomes obsolete? I don't think so. The complexities in asking the right question or solving the right problem is I think beyond like even a billion parameter AI model. And I don't think we'll get there if we don't understand how the brain actually works. So the fine we can quickly search, and that's basically what AI is doing. It can search quickly and give you accurate results. But how do you think? What makes you tick? And that I think AI doesn't yet have under its belt. So AGI, I think, is a long way out from there, and I think yes, humans will always be there. And the AI prompt engineer, which is now a big big skill that you should have as well. I think those will become more apparent going forward.
Thank you, Christian. Anybody else? Suren, how's it there from the public transport perspective? I get on the bus and the bus greets me because I feel sad today. What?
So from a public transport sector, talking about AI, talking about data, talking about technology, I think what I can share, all this data, all this technology is useless if it's not properly monitored and there's no proper actions taken from it. We work with data every day. All the systems we have out there, all the information we get, there's a lot of transport information that we have. How we share it with operators and what they do with it, that's where the key decisions lie. We talk about route optimizations. In my presentation, I mentioned, idling, I mentioned route optimizations, viability, and a lot of it would feed into Nico as well. When we talk about funding, sometimes we subsidized buses or subsidize operations that we could take those subsidies and use it elsewhere because the routes that we could be subsidizing might not be viable. That kind of information and that kind of data, we need to take it and crunch it. And I'm sure that, TAG is currently looking at it. I'm sure other provinces have similar initiatives that they need to start looking at this information. But yeah, with AI, there's a lot more effectiveness using AI, but you also need to be careful. AI gives you what AI thinks it is. It still requires that human intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. Vice versa. Thank you, Suren. Nico, that mobility center of you guys, it looks very interesting. It's taking us there.
100%. So I think at the moment, I'm actually wary of talking too much about AI because I think before you apply AI, you have to have your basics right. You need to make sure that one, you have in the public transport space, you need to make sure that you have appropriate vehicles. You need to make sure that you have, if you're bringing in EVs, you need to make sure that there's proper infrastructure to charge the EVs and so on. You need to make sure that you have appropriate technologies to connect those vehicles and the people to the mobility center. So, for instance, in the vehicles, you need to make sure that there's proper mobile network operations in the country or in the province to connect all those vehicles, or IoT connectivity technologies such as NB-IoT, LPWAN, and all those kinds of technologies in place to connect all the IoT sensors that are needed on the public transport infrastructure and so on. You need to make sure that you have, professional drivers who are well trained and so on. And then while you then collect that data, you then need to make sure that you collect the data and use it in such a way that it creates value for you. So what we have in mind is that I always tell people that for every bus, taxi, train in the province, what I want to see from my smart mobility center, I want to see where that vehicle is at any given point in time, what speed is traveling at, what is the fuel level on that vehicle, what is the tire pressure, what is the oil temperature for every single vehicle. So I want to tap into its geolocation. I want to tap into its telemetry data with the aim of being able to have a visibility of what is happening in terms of mobility in the province, but also to analyze that data, that historic data, and in real time, and then use AI to build models that can predict what's going to happen. Like, for instance, if you can see that maybe this bus or this taxi is traveling at this speed, this is the tire pressure, and this is the fuel level, and other sensors as well, then you can say it's more likely to get into an accident, or it's more likely to cause an issue. Therefore, you're able to prevent. So for us, the key thing is being able to prevent incidents from happening, is being able to prevent congestion from happening, and also to then use AI to elevate the customer experience for public transport users in the province. But the key thing is making sure that the basics are done properly. The vehicles are roadworthy, they are suitable for the job. The people that are driving those vehicles are professional and so on. And if it's driverless, you also need to make sure that it's compliant to all the rules. You must make sure that you have the proper network connectivity and all infrastructure that is needed to enhance public transport in the province.
Thank you, Nico. Agree. I see Moses Rabotatha, your hand's been up for quite some while. You can unmute. Thank you, Moses.
Yeah, thanks, Harry, and thanks for the presenters, and in particular, Nico. I worked a lot with Nico, and we know each other for long. I was more intrigued by mobility as a service, particularly when you look at how he's looking at the future and the problem statement and so forth and so forth. But I think for MAS to succeed, it will be quite critical that government, transport operators, technology companies, and regulators, municipalities, and also commuters operate within an integrated policy and regulatory framework. Now, when you look at, in South Africa, we've got quite a number of laws, to be quite honest. I mean, you look at the National Land Transport Act, the regulations that were recently promulgated. You look at the public transport strategy, the white paper, national transport policy, and all range of acts that are there. But for me, those create the barriers because from time to time, they allocate responsibilities to various, institutions and entities. You will find that the provincial department has got these powers, and the municipal these powers, and there's always a conflict and contradiction. When you look at the Gauteng Transport Authority Act, for instance, and there will probably be a conflict between what the provincial department does and what GTA or TAG it's supposed to do. And there will be battles for TAFs and so forth and so forth. So I think at the end of the day, it becomes important to address the issues of fragmentation when we're talking about MAS. And it will be quite important to look at how we deal with these issues. One, the policy harmonization. At some point, we might need to look at developing a national MAS strategy. If we don't have, we look at harmonizing the legislation, the regulatory environment, and among other things, institutional harmonization. It could be that maybe at national level or probably even at a provincial level, we consider the establishment of a National Mobility Integration Council or the Provincial Mobility Integration Council, because I remember when you talk about the issue around APT, automated ticketing, SANRAL will come in and Nugo will attest to that. The regulations that they came in, where they want to have control of this and where the province should be and so forth. And we get stuck precisely because one entity doesn't want to lose power over something. So there's a need for a political will at national level and more coordinated type of legislation, regulation, and in particular a structure or institution that will drive mobility as a service, looking at the future, particularly fourth industrial revolution. Thanks.
Thank you, Moses. Any comments from the panel? Seems to me everybody is in agreement.
Yeah, look, I think what I would just say is that those are the challenges that we have to navigate on our side. Hence, when you embark on a project as complex as this one, you then have to try and do what we call divide and conquer. So you try and divide it in such a way that while we are still dealing with the challenge in another area, you can make some progress in another, so that it doesn't seem like there's no movement at all. So hence, if you look at the program that I presented, or the progress report that I presented, you have all those different aspects at different percentage of completion. because while we are struggling with one area where there's political barriers, where there's issues around power struggles and other types of issues, then we're able to focus on something else and then build it up as we get along. But yeah, those are the challenges that we have to navigate.
We hear you. Thank you, Nyiku. Samantha.
Hi there again. So my question is actually for Justin. Zimi, right? Do you guys, is it software and hardware that you provide? That's the first question. And the second question is, obviously you gave a percentage of EV in South Africa. We've obviously seen access to market for these vehicles that they're just not affordable as yet. How, and also looking at infrastructure, how does what you do play in with being able to have charging stations on the national roads or within local cities? How is your rollout strategy on that?
Okay. Thanks so much, Samantha. Yes, so with regards to the software and hardware question, Zimi kind of offers a full ecosystem as well. So we kind of partner with you and kind of break down all the barriers. We really look at each client's profile specifically. We look at what the needs is that they actively need, or the goals that they're actively trying to achieve with the EV adoption. And we map out a full process on like route planning based on what you guys are currently fulfilling, and find the most optimized opportunities based on that. So what we do is we look at, with our customers, we generally kind of assist them primarily with having the charging facilities available at their premises. The benefit of this is that you have a little bit more control, and you can benefit more so from the cost implications as well. Obviously, charging on the public grid will come at a different tariff, whereas if you're doing it from your own premises, you have a little bit more flexibility of optimizing and actually reducing your costs even further. So our ecosystem speaks to one another. It also informs your processes and every route that you take. So at a certain point during our onboarding with the client, once we've tested these routes, we'll actually look at the data again and also find ways that we can actually optimize for better cost-saving benefits as well. So we do have kind of networks available with the national kind of charging businesses as well. So we are able to provide you with access to that. But our main kind of driver when we are unpacking the EV introduction into your fleet is to optimize it to the best of your ability so that you can actually see the benefit of it. From the perspective of the cost, we understand that the vehicle is going to be generally more expensive, and that's obviously related to the battery associated to it. So that's what kind of pushes the price up. But if you look at your vehicles acquisitions in general, you're looking at a long game acquisitions in any case. From the perspective of like traditional vehicles versus electric vehicles, the electric vehicles actually has less moving parts, which means mechanically it's more sound and actually more suited for your business. That results in less downtime. It means that your business will continuously kind of be performing, and the vehicles are quite robust. So this isn't like your first generation EVs. These are very well tested vehicles that we're offering. Even so that we have kind of even narrowed down the vehicle offering that we offer at Zimi to really give you field tested vehicles that we have personally checked out and we have truly vetted. Like we've really run them through the trial. So the process in kind of working with Zimi is we want to make EVs possible, but we also want to make it affordable. We want to make it a strategic business investment that actually yields rewards and safeguards your business for the future as well, with the situation of like the carbon introduction. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. So do you have like published case studies that you can look at? Because you mentioned that the specific vehicles that you would that you've actually had successes with. If there's something that you could share, maybe like
Sure.
one pager or something. And then, is there a big demand for EV trucks in South Africa?
So I think the EV truck space is quite new. It's a new kind of conversation. But I think the interesting thing of what happened, or what we've noticed recently, just engaging with our clients, is that when the petrol kind of crisis hit South Africa, more kind of interest was actually looking at like, oh my goodness, I can't have this happening to my business. So how am I going to safeguard this for the future? And that's when the conversation started actually becoming more apparent, specifically with our businesses. So the vehicles themselves have been tested. So you see countries like China, they've already got 50% adoption of EV. In Norway, 90%. South Africa is really low on that scale, but they've seen the benefits of it. It's something that we essentially are noticing internationally, the benefits thereof, but we just need to bring that down into South Africa. So at Zimmy, we've really kind of tailored the packages to kind of break through all of those kind of barriers that you would possibly find, and really give you a very streamlined approach with the hands-on support of our engineering team.
Thank you so much, Justin. Excellent.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much.
Right, let's have Gerard and then Rudy, and then we need to start closing the session. Gerard?
Thank you, Harry. My question is specifically for Renke and Christian. The integration that Renke has spoken about is absolutely critical. You cannot grow your business without doing that. And in the commercial space between the cargo owner and the trucking operator, we see that more and more happening. The one that I'm concerned about is the integration with state-owned entities. Specifically, if you start looking at what's going to happen at the borders, how do we integrate with SARS in terms of the logistic flow, not the SARS system? How do you integrate with BMA, with the immigration process? And then lastly, how do you take that across border so that you do all that on a digitized basis? Because the marriage that needs to take place every single day between thousands of vehicles en route and a piece of paper that they need to cross that border is killing the industry in terms of the time lost there. Have there been any integrations that you're aware of? I'm aware of the Smart Seals projects, but other than that, what is preventing that from happening, and where can we put pressure to start engaging that to get that savings back into the transport industry? Thank you.
If I may, Christian, happy?
Yeah.
Gerard, very good point. We are actually quite involved with that eSeals project. So one of our haulier clients based in Eswatini actually did a trial run where about a week ago or two, but obviously very recently, they had a combination of SARS and ESR representatives at the mutual border, where we practically were showing and trialing the benefits of the seal, and how that peace of mind that the authorities need so that they can ease on the manual processes that I think that were intervented to try and control because they don't have digital visibility can get released. I think in the Eswatini example, they have now given some of that leeway where they don't have to move in a convoy because that was a way of them keeping visibility and structure, because now they can literally track the asset or the seal or both and get alerts in terms of seal being locked, unlocked, or tampered during the journey. I'm sure there are many other initiatives, but the eSeals one is one.
Seem to me we lost Renke for a moment. Christian, in the meantime, do you have something?
No, we haven't engaged with any of the borders here yet. We do our products are roaming, so you can cross the border and it will still continue to work. But we are very much open to discussions or any any engagements you want support on, we will definitely partake in that to integrate more into these other systems. As I said in my presentation, context is everything. And the more context we can get, the quicker we can move stuff, the easier we can move stuff, and the more power there is to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christian. Maybe let's give Rudy Henning opportunity to ask.
My question, thanks, Harry. My question is for Christian. With South Africa having so many official languages, do you see the AI bots recognizing more than just normal English in the future?
Yeah, so talking, it will be easier as that is more generic, but the actual speech or the talking back, that is more of a problem. But that could also be an excellent opportunity as these models are being built by in-country people, the conversation models. And maybe that's an awesome idea for somebody in South Africa even to start with different languages and get those bots up or those voices prompt. It's actually interesting how they design the voices to match with the avatar's expression. So there's a whole framework around tones and how it links to the movements, the shape movements of the mouth. So there is not yet, obviously, typing to it, it's fine. Talking is also that's fine, but talking back I haven't seen any of the voice agents being able to do that. But I will look around. Maybe there's that's AI technology is moving so quickly. Maybe somebody's already done a bot or something specific in a language. So we'll definitely look out for that to make sure that we can support everybody and all 9 languages. There's 9, right, in South Africa.
Thank you, Christian. Renko, maybe you want to continue with what you've been saying?
Yeah, no, apologies for that. Gerard, no, so what I was saying is I honestly think, and pre that practical demonstration we had, leading up to that, to some of the meetings at the commissioner in the SARS office, it really seems that there might be a tipping point with that specific project and that initiative, and I think it could be beneficial all around. I think it's going to be a SACCO effort. So yeah, I think there are many other initiatives, but that one of the e-seals I think is most practically in a phase where one can actually start to see broad scale rollout and immediate benefits. I'm posting the case study of that seals exercise in the chat, and happy to engage with you afterwards.
Thank you, Renko. Appreciate that. Ladies and gents, I think this is an excellent panel, so let's give them opportunity for short closing remarks. On my screen, Christian, you're the first one. Can you have some closing remarks from CTRAC?
I think this is an awesome time to be in the technology and transport space. There's so much opportunity. There's such a breadth of context that can be brought together. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to work together, build better product, get the context mended, and to give our clients more insights, more powerful insights, and to solve real problems that we as South Africans have. And I thank you for having me.
Thank you, Christian. We love the solving problems thing. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Nico, some closing remarks.
First of all, thank you, Christian. Thank you, Harry, for inviting me to this session. Thank you to my panel teammates and to everyone who's attended the session. I think all I can say is that everyone here is a potential partner to our program. We do want, for all the public transport vehicles, we do want to track where they are at any given point in time. We want all the public transport operators to have fleet management solutions, digitized fleet management solutions that take advantage of all the technologies that are presented by the 5th Industrial Revolution. We do want all the vehicles to use new energy, to be new energy vehicles, hydrogen, electric, and so on. So Zimi becomes a partner there. And lastly, we do want public transport users to access and pay for mobility services much seamlessly and in line with how they pay for everything on a day-to-day basis. If they are tapping their phones to pay for a burger, they must be able to tap their phone to pay for a bus. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nyeku. Well said. Thank you so much. Justin, closing remarks.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks again, Transport Forum, for allowing me to be a part of this. Well, me as in Zimi. It was great speaking to everyone and just hearing about the amazing innovations that's happening in the transport industry. Truly revolutionary, and it really is exciting times. And I basically look forward to continuing this conversation, that it's not a once-off, and that we'll actually take the information that we've learned and apply it. Because there's a lot of really amazing things happening, and you've got great people in South Africa that's pushing the wheel forward to a better future, I guess. So thank you so much for everyone. I do appreciate your time and, yeah, all the presentations that were presented today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Suren, closing remarks.
Hi, Harry. Once again, thanks to Transport Forum, all the presenters and all the people that have attended the conference. Moses, I appreciated your questions that you asked. I think they're critical questions. And I think Nico has got a lot on his hands because all the questions that you've asked involve different stakeholders and stakeholder management. Nico, we appreciate the work you're doing in the background because I can understand the different personalities and different challenges you have. But like we said, we're a team, we've got a lot of potential, we've got a lot of good ideas, we've got a lot of good technology. It's about putting the technology to good use and achieving the objectives, because the end game is the commuter. We're doing all this to make sure that public transport works properly, we make sure that people move properly and reduce the congestion on our roads. And not just Johannesburg, but countrywide. So yeah, and you guys have my contact details. If there's anything you need from me, please feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Suren. Appreciate it, Suren. Thanks a lot. Renko, closing remarks.
Thank you. Thanks, Harry. Thanks, everybody, for the time. I think for me, closing, there is not a specific silver bullet for everyone. Wherever you are in your stage, don't get too caught up in a rat race of trying to digitize for the sake of digitizing. Wherever you are, if that means going from something to from nothing to something, or something to something better, or non-integrated to integrated, you will know what moves the needle in your business and what is currently relevant. Otherwise, a lot of this becomes very noisy, very intimidating, and very time-consuming. So just get back to decision-making as an operator. You know what's going to move your needle, then start there. The biggest thing I always say is just start, because you can't not start. You don't have to try and chase the tail the whole time and the end goal. Get practical with what you need now. Thank you.
Wise words. Thank you so much, Renko. Appreciate it. Ladies and gents, let's give this panel a big hand and send them some thumbs ups and so on.